The most interesting part of the motorcycle market for me are the middleweights. 5 to 800cc, more than one cylinder, serious performance and serious cred. Hopefully, these are the motorcycles that convert you from a biker to a lifelong, serious, passionate motorcyclist. On that journey, you have many stops, right? So the Street Triple, terrific. S1000RR, brilliant. Panigale V4S, amazing. And motorcycles like the Goldwing or the Street Fighter, they are the top of dogs, right? But what about motorcycles like this? The Triumph Trident 660, what about the middleweights? These are crucial, they are the linchpin. This is where the trip begins. So today, we're going to talk about your journey from the KTM Dominar Pulsar RTR to your first middleweight motorcycle. And we're going to talk about Triumph's most affordable motorcycle in the country, the Trident 660. The Trident 660, as you should know already, derives heavily from the Street Triple, but not the Street Triples we get in India, but the international smaller model, the Street Triple S. In this generation, that has a 660cc engine and is offered in markets where license classifications make space for a machine like that. The Trident's motor is based on that, but seriously retuned. And the frame is also based on that, but where there was aluminum, now there is steel. And that's where it's the most affordable of the Triumphs, sitting well under the Street Twin and quite a way below the Honda CB650R. The Kawasaki Z650, however, that is cheaper. And right at the top of that discussion, obviously, is cost. It's the biggest stumbling block for most first-time middleweight motorcycle buyers. It's something, for example, that Royal Enfield realized before they created their 650cc twin-cylinder motorcycles. And the Royal Enfield proposition, at less than half the price of the Trident 660, it's hard to argue against, right? The Trident is the same thing in a sense. It's meant to be an easily attainable middleweight, and Triumph India expects it to be their largest selling bike, at least until their dalliance with Bajaj produces an offspring. And honestly, while Rs 7 lakh might still be a bridge too far for many of us, it might be within the reach of a lot more people than a Rs 12 lakh KTM 790 or a Street Triple R or something similar. All of those, of course, have considerably more performance. But does your middleweight really need to be a performer? I hear you say yes, and I would have to agree. Because the performance under acceleration, on highway cruise, and even the top speed, even if you ever only use it for bench racing, is a part of the aura of the middleweight motorcycle. And that's where the Trident is a bit of a surprise. Because the Street Triple, Triumph usually tunes them for horsepower and they have nice manic top ends. The Trident, Triumph tuned it for torque. So the Trident is fun to ride in an easy, no challenges, no surprises manner. Torque kicks in pretty early and it sings that unique 3-cylinder song, and I would say it sings it better than most of the other triples, and the spread is even and thick enough for a middleweight. You will like this, I promise. The only issue I have is some vibration under acceleration, which you'll only notice because otherwise, at cruise for example, there isn't any. For riders graduating to this class of motorcycles, I would say that easy is fast and easy is smooth, and that the Trident nails. But the challenge of faster motorcycles is hardly ever just the speed, right? It's the corners. That's when things get complicated and potentially scary. Well, you can relax because the Trident sits on a longer wheelbase than the Street Triple S. It has more relaxed steering geometry and it carries its weight really, really well. What that means to you is, that is not going to scare you. This is a light, nimble chassis with Michelin's absolutely brilliant Road 5 tires as standard. The Trident feels natural to push through corners, and this is what you want in your first middleweight: confidence. There is a flip side to it too. I fear that Triumph have made this a bit too easy, but we'll come to that. Ride quality is the first department where the Triumph clearly shows that it was not set up for Indian conditions, because this is a really stiffly sprung motorcycle and it doesn't like the bumps too much. The preload is already set to the softest, so for most of us, there's no real escaping the bumps. So in that sense, this is definitely not the most comfortable motorcycle in the class, but I don't really think that's a deal breaker, because it does have ground clearance and a sense of solidity to it, so it's not really a major worry. But I do believe that the suspension on this should have been set up better for Indian conditions to be sure. But For new riders, I don't think the ride quality and the comfort thereof are major considerations. Performance, handling and the aura of the big bike is what we are looking for. And that between the design and the feature set, the Triumph sits firmly in the pick-me ballpark. So on the one hand, it has a pretty decent traction control system which intervenes pretty smoothly. It has 2 riding modes, rain and road, and it's got ABS, the basics but done well. I suspect that the traction control system could be less strict. It's a little bit like Amitabh Bachchan from Mohabbatein, but I'd rather have that than no support on this front. And to look at, the Trident looks like a modern day Triumph. There's loads of attention to detail, good finish levels and a striking design. I say striking because the Trident swings from being an okay design to a great one depending on the angle you see it from. It's not classically handsome, but it certainly is appealing. I do have an issue with the Trident 660 directly related to the first middleweight quandary. You see, riding the Trident 660 feels normal. And in being easy, compact and unchallenging, it gives you lots of confidence and it does that with style. But the flip side of that very coin is that it misses some of the sense of thrill and occasion that you want from your first big bike experience. So I suspect initially you'll enjoy riding it a lot and then very quickly you'll outgrow this. Contributing to that feeling is the compact size of the Trident 660. This is, especially for a big bike, a small bike. The tank volume looks large in the photos, but up close, the Trident doesn't have the visual bulk and heft of say the Street Triple or the Z650. Now, would you like your first big bike to feel big also, or would you prefer a compact machine that feels more controllable? Tell us in the comments. What I'm trying to say is that when you jump off your KTM or Dominar or whatever and onto the Triumph, you'll immediately see the yin and yang sides of the Trident 660. It's pretty easy to live with and you can go pretty quick if you like, but that very same simplicity robs it of some of the sense of occasion that your first bike really should be. So that, it's pretty quick, but it's not on the lam from a racetrack. It doesn't have a big top-end rush. It doesn't get all serious after 7,000 RPM. It's pretty quick primarily because it has a larger multi-cylinder engine. But what it really wants to be is friendly, encouraging and responsive. This is not going to be your first German Shepherd. It's just a big old puppy.